Most people think the Stranger Things finale will be about one last fight, one final monster, or a huge moment designed purely for shock value. But that's not what this ending has been building toward. The final episode isn't meant to surprise you, it's meant to make sense. And if you don't understand how the rules of the Upside Down have quietly changed, what Vecna is actually trying to accomplish, and why certain characters matter more now than ever, the finale can feel confusing instead of powerful. This video isn't a recap, and it isn't spoiler-free, it's a complete breakdown of everything the show expects you to already know, but never clearly explains before the Stranger Things finale begins. Stranger Things started as a simple story, a small town, a missing kid, and a mysterious other world leaking through cracks in reality, but over time, the show stopped being about monsters entering Hawkins and started becoming something else entirely. By the time we reach the final stretch of the story, Stranger Things is no longer operating on the same rules it once did, and Volume 2 quietly confirms this shift, which is why the finale is structured very differently from past seasons. Earlier seasons treated the Upside Down as a location, a place you could enter, escape from, or temporarily seal away, but now it's presented as a system layered into reality itself. Gates are no longer the core threat. The danger now comes from instability, from two versions of the same world trying to occupy the same space, which is why the show spends less time escalating monster attacks and more time focusing on memory, trauma, and time itself. The finale isn't about stopping an invasion, it's about preventing a collapse. This change becomes clear when you look at Vecna, who on the surface appears to be a traditional final villain obsessed with destruction, but his actions reveal something far more specific. He isn't trying to conquer Hawkins, he isn't trying to kill everyone, and he isn't even trying to rule the Upside Down, because his real objective is structural rather than territorial. Vecna is attempting to reshape reality using trauma as a binding force. Every victim he chose follows a pattern. They weren't selected because they were weak, but because they were emotionally stuck, trapped in grief, guilt, or unresolved pain. Vecna doesn't feed on fear alone, he feeds on emotional stasis, on people who cannot move forward, which is why his curse revolves around memory loops, distorted visions of the past, and the sensation of time running out. The clock imagery is not decorative, it reflects Vecna's existence outside forward motion, and his desire to pull the world into that same frozen state. This understanding reframes the Upside Down itself, which is locked to a specific moment in time, and mirrors Hawkins as it once was rather than as it is now. That detail isn't random. It shows that the Upside Down represents memory without healing, a place where nothing progresses and trauma is never resolved, which is why Vecna thrives there, because he embodies that same emotional condition. This also changes how Eleven's role in the finale should be viewed, because while she has long functioned as the solution through raw power, Volume 2 makes it clear that force alone is no longer enough. Ending the story with a bigger display of her abilities would undermine the themes the show has been building, because Eleven isn't meant to defeat Vecna physically. Their connection is deeper than that. They mirror each other through isolation and stolen childhoods, with the difference being that Eleven learned to process her pain through connection, while Vecna rejected it and turned inward. Their conflict is psychological rather than physical, and the finale depends on that distinction. This is also why the children Vecna took were so important, because they weren't fuel or power upgrades, they were anchors that reinforced the emotional structure Vecna was creating. Trauma stabilizes his version of reality, pain locks things in place, and that explains his patience and slow approach, because the process matters more than speed. By the time the finale arrives, Hawkins itself is no longer just a town, but a symbol, and its decay isn't only physical destruction, but emotional rot. A place pretending that normal life can return when it clearly cannot. Government cover-ups, public panic, and the widening gap between truth and perception all point to the same conclusion, that Hawkins cannot fully be saved, and the show is aware of that. This doesn't make the ending hopeless. It clarifies the goal, because Stranger Things isn't trying to restore the past, it's trying to resolve it. That's why the group matters not as individual heroes, but as a collective, with each character representing a different response to trauma, such as denial, guilt, anger, or avoidance. The finale isn't about who survives, it's about who changes, which is also why it slows down instead of escalating endlessly. Viewers are meant to watch the silences, the choices, and the moments where characters decide whether to hold on or let go. The show has been preparing for this kind of ending since the beginning, even if it never stated it directly. At its core, The Stranger Things finale isn't about winning, it's about breaking cycles. Vecna represents unprocessed trauma, the Upside Down represents a world frozen by unresolved memory, and the ending doesn't need to destroy these things to resolve them, it needs to weaken their hold. That's why the most important moments in the finale won't be loud or explosive, they'll be subtle, and they'll only land if the audience understands what has truly been at stake all along. When watching the final episode, the focus shouldn't only be on action, but on who forgives, who confronts their past, who chooses to move forward, and who remains trapped. That's where the real resolution happens. By now, it should be clear that the Stranger Things finale isn't about bigger spectacle or louder moments, it's about emotional closure. The Upside Down was never just another world, Vecna was never just another villain, and the end of this story isn't about who wins or loses, but about what finally breaks and what finally gets released. If this breakdown helped you understand the bigger picture, make sure to like the video because it really helps the channel grow. And if you enjoy calm, in-depth explanations like this, subscribe to the channel for more Stranger Things theories, breakdowns, and long-form explainers. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the finale.